Let's go ahead and jump into our first story of the night, though. This one is actually going to be an article that I'll have coming out later this week for The Last American Vagabond. You may have seen it going around, or at least in the headlines, but maybe you didn't actually look into the article. States are beginning to adopt digital driver's license. Biden may supercharge the transition. A draft executive order viewed by Notice, which is this news outlet that I'd never heard of before, but they seem to be describing themselves as nonpartisan, objective media. I'm sure they would still call some of us conspiracy theories, but nevertheless, it seems like they're doing some good work. It says a draft executive order viewed by Notice shows how the Biden administration could reshape how Americans access government services and potentially behave online. Yep. And by the way, for all those who say, I never talk about Biden and Kamala, you're obsessed with Trump, you got Trump derangement syndrome. Here you go. Take a breath. The Biden administration is laying the groundwork for wider acceptance of digital identifications, like digital driver's licenses that you can show on your smartphone, a push that could fundamentally reshape how citizens access everything from public benefits to pornography online. So if you're worried about your porn, you want to tune in. A draft of a forthcoming executive order viewed by Notice pushes federal and state governments to speed adoption of smartphone-based mobile driver's licenses and ID options more widely, stating, it is the policy of the executive branch to strongly encourage the use of digital identity documents. Let's just pause right there for a moment. Why would the government, whether it's under Joe Biden or Donald Trump, want to herd you further into the digital identity document area? Let's go back maybe 2, 3, 4 years ago to something called COVID 1984. You guys remember those things that originally were called immunity passports, and then later on they became known as vax passports? You guys remember that? You remember in certain parts of the world where you couldn't fly, you couldn't travel, you couldn't work, you couldn't get in certain businesses without showing your permission slip. And in some places like Italy, it was so crazy that they couldn't even go on walks without a permission slip to walk their dog 500 feet from their house, right? So what do you think is going to happen if these things come in the form of digital identities? And what was the phrase there they said? Let me go back to it. They said, it is the policy of the executive branch to strongly encourage the use of digital identity documents. Why would they want that? I mean, it seems pretty obvious to me. They want control over, they want to know everywhere and everything you do. Such documents could be submitted digitally and in combination with biometric scans like facial recognition, and could help better verify identity online. This draft executive order, if implemented, would ostensibly address a growing problem. The governments have lost billions of, here they go, here's the sob story. Governments have lost billions of dollars in fraudulent claims to benefit programs using forged identification cards. And look, like if there's some old lady or some person that's getting scammed out of their social security check by scammers, of course, that's not a good thing. I'm not saying I support that, but it's obvious that they go for cases like that. We care about the people being scammed. So in order to fix that, guys, we've got this beautiful digital identity system, which will make sure that there's never fraud again, right? I'm sure that's how it's going to work out. This would also mandate federal agencies to adopt a single government-run identity system, which is called login.gov. So that might be the website where in the future, the U.S. citizens, at least the compliant ones, are expected to go register and scan their face if they want to do anything. As a gateway to federal websites and to offer that system to state and local governments for integration. Already, 13 states have rolled out some kind of mobile driver's license programs, and more are working towards implementing a digital ID. Where have we heard about mobile driver's license? Let me just go over here to our favorite website, The Last American Vagabond, where I am a contributor and Ryan Christian's the founder. Let's just search mobile driver's licenses and see what comes up. See if anybody out there in the independent media has been warning about this or writing about this. I don't know. Maybe somebody has. Let's just give it a look. Oh, there's an article from 2023. Who's behind the push for digital driver's license in the U.S. and Mexico? Written by me. Exploring the digital ID as a human rights scam back in May 2022. We could go on, but you guys get the point. I've been reporting on this push for what they call mobile driver's licenses or digital driver's licenses. And I wrote about in this article how this company, I believe it's the Fuel, let me see, I can't remember their name off the top of my head. This might be a separate article. But the point is, I've been reporting on this for a while, so it's probably not news to those of you who've been paying attention, but for the average person, it is. The Thales Group, that's what it is. The Thales Group's fingerprints are all over digital identity programs. And in this article, I'll put this in the show notes, but who's behind the push for digital driver's licenses in the US and Mexico was warning about this more than a year ago. And boom, now we're getting a draft executive order showing that the Biden administration is considering an executive order to mandate states to start implementing mobile driver's licenses or digital driver's license. It does acknowledge that privacy activists and civil libertarians of both parties have raised concerns that digital IDs could lead to government overreach and surveillance. Ultimately, an order could have far-reaching consequences for how Americans prove who they say they are on the web when they apply for benefits, file their taxes, or even access online websites and services. So remember that, because as we get into the conversation about RFK and Musk and Trump and Peter Thiel, I'm gonna bring it back to, and don't forget Eric Schmidt. We're gonna talk about how Eric Schmidt and others are pushing for this idea of an ID to get on the internet itself. So it's not just mobile driver's license. Like, that might be where it starts, but ultimately, you guys know this is a digital ID that is going to be used for all kinds of things. This will be your internet access. You won't be able to get on the internet eventually unless you know alternative methods, which is an important thing we need to be exploring. If you don't have this ID, you won't be able to work. You won't be able to get your Social Security benefits, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, like for example, Jeff Noble says, I use it to check on my Social Security issues. I'm guessing you're talking about login.gov. So they've already got some people using this as well, and it's going to expand as we go further. So Joe Biden first promised an executive order in 2022 in the State of Union, but it has been stuck in a bureaucratic turf war over what it should include. 4 people familiar with the matter said that the text of the executive order had been finalized, but that the Biden administration was debating when to roll it out. We could expect them, since Biden's already a lame duck and Kamala or Trump, somebody else, some other puppets coming in, and there's only September, October, November, December, 4 months left before Biden leaves. I guarantee you they're going to sneak this in there at some point. It might be one of the last executive orders he does. And then people will be like, oh my God, Biden did the digital IDs. And then guess what? If Trump comes in there, he'll continue to expand them. No, he won't overturn it, because that's not how this team sport politics works. One team does it, the other side complains about it, and then they come along and they expand it, or at the very least, they don't do anything about it. And this just allows people to keep fighting over the puppets and not realizing that they are both serving the same agenda. One person obtained what they said was the final text of the order from a federal agency this week and provided it to notice. A second person confirmed that many of the provisions matched a summary that had circulated among stakeholders within recent months, and that the draft provided to notice incorporated some changes sought by the agency and industry. And a White House spokesperson said, nothing is final until it's signed by the president. So that's kind of the point. One more paragraph here. It says billions of dollars in corporate and government money are tied up in how to create systems that will allow people to verify who they are online and to submit those credentials to both private and public run websites for verification, all while addressing privacy and civil liberty concerns about moving identity documents onto smartphones. So it's, and the article goes on further from there, but the point is, that's the latest thing, is this outlet, which is a brand new outlet, right? Maybe they don't have the track record where we should say that they're going to be 100% right, but I don't think they would be just putting it out there and claiming that they had access to this draft report without actually having access to it. They could be making it up. They could be lying. So let's take it with a grain of salt, but this seems to be legit. And in fact, since I'm working on this article, I did a little research to find out, has the Biden administration previously talked about this? And I found this article on nextgov.com. White House stalls on digital identity mandate despite billions in fraud. You see that again? Like the call is like, this is going to prevent fraud. It's going to prevent grandma from getting ripped off. And all those scammers are out there with their fake cryptos. And look, I get it, dude. Like I have people impersonating me on Telegram and all the other platforms. I have followers of mine who have been scammed, unfortunately, because people will impersonate me. They'll create a fake account and they'll reach out and they say, hey, are you preparing for the coming collapse? And the people's like, yeah. Oh, is this Derek? Awesome. Great to hear from you. And they'll say, awesome. If you really want to be prepared for the coming collapse, I need you to move your money into the quantum financial system. And then they scam people. Like, I get it. I get that there are scammers out there and that this is a real issue. Fraud is a problem. But if you actually trust that the idea that the government is going to do this and not scam you and defraud you in other ways, then you're not really paying attention, my friend. So just a little more backup. This is March 6th. So again, we just got this draft report from Notice. That's brand new. But then we've also got this March 6th report from NextGov saying President Biden previewed an executive order in his 2020 State of Union. As Biden gears up for his 2024 address, the order still hasn't been released. So this is kind of complaining, saying 2 years after he teased this executive order, such an order hasn't materialized, leaving stakeholders frustrated at the lack of action to address vulnerabilities and prevent fraudsters from siphoning off government money. And then they go on to quote some people. The order, as it was previewed 2 years ago, was said to be focused on preventing fraud in government benefit programs. The Government Accountability Office said that up to $135 billion in unemployment insurance went to bad actors during the pandemic. So you can see the narrative that they're hyping up here, and I just wanted to provide a little more evidence. I think this is factual, and not only just because of this story about the Biden executive order, but again, if you've been following my work, I've focused a lot on digital identities over the years. In fact, my book, How to Opt Out of the Technocratic State, right here, was highly focused on this. I've been talking about the concerns with digital identities for several years now, for many years now. And in this book, which you can download for free at theconsciousresistance.com/how-to, I talk about, look, you may have been concerned about vaccine passports, but it's not going away, my friends. It's going to come in the form of carbon credit schemes, or you got to have your carbon wallet to see if you've farted too much this week, or you ate too much meat, or whatever, or if you've drove too much. That's what this is all about. It might come in the form of a digital ID for your driver's license. It might come in the form of a digital ID to prevent fraud in government programs. It might come in the form of, oh, you know what? The video games are rolling out this really cool feature that all you have to do is scan your face and scan your eyes, and then you get to import your face onto your favorite character on the video games. As I wrote in this book, they're going to sell it to the people through entertainment, through convenience. Like, as I talked about a couple of weeks ago, how they're talking about making airports touch-free, and you can just walk through the airport and it scans your face and it, automatically knows who you are. And then there'll be no bad people in the airport. No terrorists ever will be in the airport again, because we'll know who everybody is and we'll know everybody was intended to be there. Of course, all that involves giving up your privacy and your liberty, but pay no attention to that. Pay no mind to that. At least they would like you to do so. And my book, How to Opt Out of the Technocratic State, I do talk about solutions. So for those that are like, okay, Derek, I can't tell you guys, we'll talk more in the next story, how many times over the last week I've been told I'm black-pilled, I'm just being negative. And any of you who know my work, you know that if anything, besides my journalism, 90% of my work, my books, my presentations are focused on solutions. But people don't want to hear it if the solutions don't involve sucking at the teat of the government, or being a bootlicker for Donald Trump or for Kamala Harris or for RFK. They think that if you say that that's not the answer, then you're saying there's no solutions, and nothing could be further from the truth. So my point is, this has been going on for a while now, guys. It's going to increase. I'm going to continue to write about it. I'm going to continue to warn about it. And you better believe I'm not going to accept the digital ID. What does that mean, though? Let's talk about that. Again, this goes back to my book. If you are a kind of person that I'm not going to accept a digital ID. Like, for example, if you were the kind of person that knew you weren't going to take the COVID shot, you had to deal with all kinds of circumstances. You had to deal with probably losing friends and family, maybe getting fired from your job, or maybe just not being able to travel, like things like that. But those of us who thought ahead and who knew this was coming, we tried to kind of be ready to play the game. You have to be adaptable, my friends. But if you're the kind of person that you got a lot of student loan debt, and you got a lot of credit card debt, and your money's in the bank, and you got mortgage, and I understand these are adult things that people in our world, for whatever reason, accept as normal. The idea that I would go into debt and put my life on hold for 30 years. I don't know. Anyways, I don't want to get into that. But the point is, so many people are stuck in situations that they're like, I hear you, Derek, but I don't know what else to do. The best thing I can do is hope that Trump, if he saves the day, then I won't have to change my own life. I won't have to change my own habits. I won't have to change my behavior. Somebody else will do it for me. But I'm sorry, my friends, and I guess maybe this is why some of you think I'm negative, but that's not going to happen. They're not going to save you. QAnon's not going to save you. RFK is not going to save you. Musk's not going to save you. I'm getting ahead of myself because this is really the next story we're going to get into. But the point stands. They're not going to save you from these digital ID programs. They can talk a big game all they want, and maybe they'll even delay it a little further to keep you believing in the illusion. But at the end of the day, no, my friend, it is not communism that we are fighting. So many people, this guy is saying, say no to communism. Sure, say no to communism. Communism is shit, especially if it's not done voluntarily and it involves giving up private property and forcing people to give up their religion and all kinds of horrible things that communists have done. But that's not what we're fighting. That's what the illusion wants you to believe. Meanwhile, the left is like, if Trump gets in office, it's going to be fascism. And you're over here believing that the Democrats are communists. Meanwhile, real communists, real leftists, whether you agree with them or not, are like, the Democrats aren't communists. They're more right-wing than anything. And that's the reality. The left and right, it's so fucking combobulated. And most people are not educated about political philosophy. So they just, there's something I don't like, they must be communist. Or there's something I don't like, they must be fascist. They're not using these terms in the historical context or really with any deeper understanding. It's just like, what you mean to say is, I don't like the other side. They're doing bad things. But no, you're not fighting communism. You're not fighting fascism. Not to say that they won't have similarities or elements. What you are fighting is technocracy, not technology, because I noticed some people think when I say technocracy, I'm talking about technology. No, technocracy. Let me whip out the book again. Technocratic state, or what they called it, the technate. Go back to Zbigniew Brzezinski. He's now dead, but you should know him. Zbigniew Brzezinski, puppet of the deep state of the New World Order. He wrote it called America Between Two Ages, the Technocratic Era. I wrote about it in this book. I quoted from him directly. They believe in a world with no individual liberty, with a technate king at the top. And this means no politics, no businessmen, no voting, which in some ways, no voting is better, but at least people have this illusion that their voice matters. In their world, you're too stupid to know what's good for you. So we need the technocratic elite, the scientific dictatorship to be in charge. That's what it ultimately comes down to, my friends. So I'll be doing deeper videos and probably an article on this in the future. I encourage people to go look at my interviews on theconsciousresistance.com about Patrick Wood. I encourage you to learn about the work of Anthony Sutton. When he showed in his research, he's now long gone and deceased, but he showed that you know who funded the communists in Russia? The banking class. You know who funded Hitler in Germany? The banker class. The same people, the predator class, the bankers and the technocrats. They've been funding both these movements. So sure, they'll fund communist movements. They'll also fund capitalist movements. They'll fund fascist movements if it helps them. They don't give a shit. These things are just tools for them to get to the goal that they want. That's what it really comes down to. So I hate to go on like a little rant here, but the point is that so many people, they don't even know what they're fighting because they got you so freaking confused and lost. You're like, no, I'm fighting against the communists and Trump speaking about communism and Marxism, when in reality, these people are not really Marxists. Like, go ask a Marxist philosopher and they'll say those people are freaking capitalists, or they're right wing at best. But Americans especially, and I think the world wide over, people are so freaking confused. They don't know what to call it. So at the very least, just say, I don't like what they're doing. That would be more accurate instead of calling them communist or fascist. Anyway, so let's go ahead and take a quick momentary break, and we're going to come back and we're going to dive deep. And this is when I need you to hold on to your hats. If you get triggered easy, if you've made it this far, Trump supporters, please hang with us. I know I can be rude sometimes. I know I can be a dick. I'm not a perfect human. I strive to be compassionate and spiritual and centered. But I also believe in blunt compassion. And sometimes that means tell you you're fucking wrong, you're delusional, and you're fallen prey to a trap. And I'm sorry, maybe that's not the best approach sometimes, but I've also had people reach out to me and say, Derek, because of you and your work, you helped shake me from my slumber. You helped me see that I was falling for another puppet. I get these comments on my websites and on my channels where people will say that. They'll come back and say, hey, Derek, thank you for telling me this. Thank you for being real about it. It took me a while, but now I finally see what's going on. And that's not to say that I've got all the answers or anything like that. I'm just saying, hang on to your boots, hang on to your hats, because if I'm a little rude for a moment, or if I say something that's not to your liking, I invite you to still stick it out and to hang out. Now, I want to show you one thing real quick, if I can. Okay, I guess I'm not going to be able to real quick. Well, let me just give me just a moment, because I'm talking about my book, and I want to let you guys know that in case you didn't know, at theconsciousresistance.com/how-to, not only can you download my book for free, you can purchase it. It's available in Spanish, English, German, and French, and a Japanese version will be coming out later next year, and we're working on a Korean version as well. But if you go to my YouTube channel, The Conscious Resistance, the bigger YouTube channel, I posted the audiobook a couple weeks ago, and I just want to show you an example. This is not tooting my own horn. I guess it is, but I'm just trying to show you guys that people are actually getting value out of my work and out of this book. So I just got a comment earlier today on the audiobook on YouTube. Where has this been all my life? Fantastic information. It brings all the dots together. Somebody else, this is a great book. Thanks, Derek. Non-participation is the most effective resistance. So thank you for posting this. Just check it out. I only share it because I do think it is an effective solution. Not to say I've got all the solutions and Derek Bros is the only one that knows what's going on, but I do have some solutions, and they're better than politics. They're better than just sitting around waiting to trust liars and criminals and thieves to save you.
Since 2012, the Conscious Resistance Network has been an independent media organization focused on empowering individuals through education, philosophy, health, and community organizing. We work to create a world where corporate and state power do not rule over the lives of free human beings. Our motto is leading by example and helping others in their pursuit of freedom. Visit theconsciousresistance.com to find our articles, documentaries, interviews, podcasts, books, and more. Remember, you are powerful, you are beautiful, and you are free.